All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good early morning for people in the UK and Europe. You can type. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully everyone is doing well. So same ideas. We have some messages and everything like that, or sorry, some questions sent in um, early on, and we'll also be able to people can ask questions live, and I'll try to keep an eye on both. And but obviously, if I miss something in the chat or something like that, just someone maybe bring it to my attention or something like that. Okay. Let's see here. Morning. Perfect time for hanging during the hurricane. Oh God. Sorry, another hurricane. That's fun. All right, let's see. Okay, so we'll just did anybody have any questions they wanted to ask? Well, I guess Mike said, "Where do I get this shirt?" So my sister got this for me. Which is kind of fun. So yeah, it's all the different parts. This is obviously the head, if people didn't know that, and the chuck, the brisket, ribs, things like that, where all the different things go. And but yeah, my sister ordered it. I don't know exactly where she got it from. So Aubrey just has a question. Let's see. If one falls off the wagon at a social occasion, how long does it take to reset back to fat burning, etc.? Well, technically it takes 24 hours. Strictly speaking, that's how long it takes your biochemistry to sort of flip over metabolic states. Will you be as efficient burning fat as you were previously? Maybe not. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to reset, but it's generally about 24 hours. And then, if you just sort of slip up once, but you're pretty much fat adapted, then it's actually not going to be that hard to come back. And so it's definitely in your best interest to come back. It's not going to take like weeks and weeks and weeks to come back all of a sudden, because you are fat adapted. Your biochemistry is primed to run on fats primarily, and so if you screw that up, you basically have sort of low energy, or you could have a bit of low energy for the next sort of day or so, and then after that, you should be fine. You'll still have a bunch of toxins and garbage in your system that won't make you feel good. You might be sore, you might be uncomfortable, you might have swollen joints, or back pain, joint pain, or just feel a bit crummy for a few days afterwards, depending on what you eat and how much you ate, and then that goes away too. So all told, you're probably looking at probably like 4 or 5 days, depending on how much you eat. Alcohol is longer. I noticed that I don't really feel myself with my same energy levels and exercise tolerance for really about 3 or 4 weeks. But that's you know, but that's like with working out a lot. I mean, I when I'm working out, I do big workouts, and I'm not really able to do those full workouts for up to 3 weeks after I would drink alcohol, even if I'm not hungover the next day. So that's why for me, it has to be like a very, very good reason to drink. So, but yeah, basically you'll kick back into fat burning in 24 hours, and your body will get a bunch of junk out in the next sort of 3-4 days. And but yeah, so it's definitely well worth getting back into it. So Mike asks, metabolism gets back quicker, and residual side effects are what takes time then? Yeah. When you slip up, yeah. So in biochemistry, when you talk about like the fed state and the fasting state, fed state is just always there if you're eating carbohydrates. Fasting state happens around 24 hours after you stop after your last carbohydrate. And the intermittent fasting people will suggest that maybe it's not 24 hours, maybe it's more like 18 hours, 16 hours. So you have that 8-hour sort of window that you're doing a little better. But I mean, it's a gradient. So like your insulin will go up and it'll have a half-life and it'll slowly come down. So while it may not be like perfectly uh, reduced at 16 hours, it might be low enough that you're getting good results from an intermittent fasting point of view. And then Maria says that she was listening to Bill Schindler talk about fermented dairy. What are my thoughts? Big fan of Bill Schindler. I really like that guy. Yeah, that's something that humans have been using for a long time. Fermentation. He talks about nixtamalization as well, and a lot of other different techniques that native peoples used to reduce the toxicity of plants and also increase the bioavailability of different nutrients. And so fermentation is just one of those things for plants as well as dairy. We've been fermenting dairy for a long time. That gets rid of the lactose, and then you get a lot of the positive animal proteins and fats without the lactose and the carbs and things like that, which we don't really handle as well. And as he shows, is like a lot of people are actually still lactose intolerant, like the Mongolians who eat a lot of dairy, but it's all fermented dairy. So actually they're very lactose intolerant in Mongolia, but they still eat a lot of dairy, and that's because it's all fermented. So if you're going to eat dairy, fermenting is probably a good idea, and you get more out of it, and you get less of the lactose or no lactose. And so that's what, like, yogurts and kefir and and sour cream and things like that. That's what these things are, and so they're a little better. But I still, if you're looking at it as what's like the best of the best, like gold standard is still going to be just meat, and so if you need to flesh out your diet, with dairy, then yeah, fermented dairy is a great way to do that. If you can just afford and have meat accessible all the time, then you can do that as well. I definitely feel the best when I'm just eating meat, but a bit of yogurt every now and then. Like if I needed to take antibiotics for whatever reason at any point, I would certainly consider taking some live culture yogurt with it, and then I would be able to sort of replenish the microbiome and things like that. Jordan says they want to know about eating meat and diverticulitis. Is it okay? What are your thoughts? It's more than okay. It's probably the only safe thing that you can eat. Diverticulitis. So when you have diverticulosis is the outpouching of. So your colon is supposed to be a tube. Diverticulosis is when that thing basically blows bubbles because the muscles have failed, and so you have these little outpouching and these diverticulae, which are little bubbles, sort of like little herniations out of the colon. And diverticulitis is when those diverticulosis, when a diverticulosis gets infected. Itis just means inflammation, and so when people have diverticulitis, they still eat. We don't tell them to not eat. We tell them to eat a low residue diet. What is meat? Meat is the most low residue diet that you can get. You absorb 98% of it. And if you're not eating the gristle, you're absorbing 100% of it. So yes, meat is exactly what you want to eat with diverticulitis. Can you heal histamine intolerance? I have normal levels of DAO, but I'm still very sensitive to histamine. That's a good question. That's not something that I'm too familiar with, as far as I don't have any like real numbers for you. It's so I wouldn't be able to give you any hard answer with that one. You just have to sort of see how you go. If you're just eating a carnivore diet, you're not eating anything else, your body's going to be able to handle things much better. And even if things you're intolerant to, you will probably find that you have an easier time with them coming from meat as you go. But just, you know, either way, if you have a problem eating certain kinds of meat because of histamines or whatever, then just avoid those. You just eat the meats that work for you. So you don't have to force anything. And every now and then you can just sort of, dip back in and try these other things and see how you go. So I don't have any studies there aren't any. Well, I don't know of any studies that sort of answer that question either way. So just sort of, see how you go. Okay, so question from Madeline. I've been eating ketovore since April, last 4 weeks carnivore, 1.5 weeks into carnivore. I started to become over emotional and wanted to cry several times a day. It lasted for 2 weeks until I got my period. I noticed that I was estrogen dominant at the end of my cycle, and the cycle was several days shorter. When the period came, I felt awful, like I had a dark cloud over my head. It took me 3 hours of mental battles to cook some food. I think I have very low serotonin now, so I ate salmon to get some tryptophan to then get more serotonin, and it felt a bit better. I had only been eating beef and pork with ghee, salt, and black pepper until the salmon. I only drink water and eat 3 meals a day. The first 2 meals are smaller, and the last meal I eat until I get completely full. I also get about 65 to 80% of my calories from fat. Can I do something to feel better? And why do I feel worse since going carnivore? I think that everything you're doing there is actually really good. I mean, I don't see anything, except, pepper, that's, I think, the only fly in the ointment, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to cause your problems. Probably isn't, but, might try taking it out. It if your hormones are sort of getting back into balance, that's quite normal. I mean, you're very early on in carnivore, but ketovore, you're going to sort of be able to rebalance a lot of your hormones. But normally people get back to a normal hormonal rhythm, but it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It can take weeks, it can take a couple months, but things generally progress in a positive order. So I don't see anything that you're doing wrong. I think everything you're doing is really good, and so I would just keep doing what you're doing. Do try to make sure you get enough fat. Do make sure you're eating enough, and eating until you're full. Um, which it sounds like you are. It sounds like you're doing really, really well. I'm very sorry that you had such a rough patch this last month, but I would just keep it up. I think this will smooth out, because you're doing everything right. And I think that your emotions will settle down. Obviously, outside of food, we can be very influenced by our environments. So just make sure that you're in a secure environment as well, and that things are good and happy and safe around you, and that you're sorting things out from a stress standpoint, from a sleep standpoint, and from everything else. Very sorry. That sounds awful. But I think that if just sort of, I think that your food is optimized. I think the only thing that I think that you could do other than this is get rid of the black pepper. Black pepper. Salmon's fine. Go to town on salmon if you like it, and if it makes you feel better, and just focus on sleep and stress and reducing stress levels, and see how you go. I would imagine that will get better. I think you will get better, and I hope you do. I think it says he'll try to stick to things, and that's great. Yeah, keep it up. So Wendy, in the last 6 months, I have slowly titrated off gabapentin from 2,100 milligrams to 0. Awesome. Used for insomnia and anxiety and RLS and restless leg syndrome. That's a lot of gabapentin for just restless leg syndrome and anxiety. Completed So anyway, completing 2 weeks ago, she came off of it. I'm doing great without the meds, which is great. However, waking up drenched in sweat every morning, even more so since I upped my water based on recommendations from 8 ounces to a gallon a day in the last week, and I've started craving water today. Could the sweating be from the meds or too much water? Should I be concerned? No other issues. Sleep is fine. Legs are great. No anxiety, unless I've run out of ribeyes. Um, no, I don't think that's a it's usually not a side effect from coming off medications. I mean, if your body's sort of used to something, and maybe a bit of a weird reaction afterwards, but um it would be uncommon. I mean, I've never really heard of people getting night sweats from stopping gabapentin or even from taking gabapentin. 2100 milligrams is a big old dose, though. That's quite a lot. I'm pretty surprised that they had you on that. I'm very glad that you're off of it, because that's a big whack. No, I don't think. Well, I mean, if you're just drinking enough water that your body is just like, can be like, oh, thank God, I can actually sweat now. That's one thing. Because 8 ounces is pretty low. I think no matter who you are. If a gallon of water is feeling good for you, then and I just listen to your body craving water today. Yeah, that's sometimes when you get dehydrated enough, you just sort of shut down your signals, and then all of a sudden you drink enough water to realize how thirsty you are. Um, I'll I'll uh, I'll put out a video with Dr. Gabor Somlai, who's actually an expert in deuterium, which is very, very interesting. Actually, that throws a whole other dimension into the whole health discussion. But deuterium is heavy water. It's just hydrogen that's twice the weight of normal hydrogen, but it has the same you know uh, um, positive sort of charge interaction, and so it responds the same, similar chemically, but it's a different isotope. It's twice as heavy, so it actually behaves differently, and it makes molecules act differently. And sometimes they'll have tighter binding receptors or more loose binding receptors areas, and they changes how your body works. And so he was saying that you don't want to drink like massive amounts of water, because there's it's higher levels of deuterium, and you want to keep it sort of a lower level, which you will actually on Carnivore, which is very interesting when you guys watch this. And so I told him, I was just like, yeah, I'm one of those guys that drinks like a gallon or two a day. And he's like, oh my God, oh Jesus. From a deuterium point of view, he was saying that you wouldn't want to do more than 2 liters, but I don't know. But either way, and no matter how you look at it, I think 8 ounces is too low. But I would just go with your thirst, and just follow your thirst, and if you're thirsty, just drink water. I don't think there's any problem with that. I definitely feel better when I do that, especially when I'm working out. The night sweats, I don't think it's caused by drinking the water anyway. It could be from coming off of gabapentin, but it's not something I've heard of before. Um, but who knows? And just see how you go. If you're feeling fine otherwise, I wouldn't worry too much about it. It could just be that you're maybe just getting a little overheated, and that's it. Um, oh, okay, and there's a follow-up to this. Also, I just dropped my meds for insomnia and have trouble sleeping. Fair enough. I'm continuing to take the prescribed melatonin to help. What are your thoughts on melatonin? Do I need to stop that as well? No, I don't think so. Melatonin, especially because we live in just this light flooded environment, our melatonin levels aren't what they're supposed to be. If you can get yourself back into that, where you don't have these lights on, you don't have all this stuff. I mean, like even when I would go camping now, you get away from the light pollution, light goes down. Even if you have a fire or something like that, you just naturally just go to sleep, and you sort of sleep with the dark and the light sleeping light patterns, and it's just your body, you just feel so much better. We don't live in that environment anymore. We have a bunch of light pollution. One thing with melatonin is it doesn't work if the lights are on. You still need darkness. So you take the melatonin an hour before you want to be asleep, and you turn the lights off, and you get off your phone, you get off your computer, you don't watch TV. You maybe listen to a book on tape quietly, sort of in a low light room, or read a book with low light, and and don't have any sort of screens, and as little light as possible going on. And this will help you, get to sleep, and it will help your body sort of reset that. Taking melatonin in these circumstances, I don't think is a big deal, and can help reset your body clock as well, when you're trying to get to sleep. And it also has been shown to help sort of kick, because your body's hormonal cycle, your circadian rhythm, like has these certain points and checkpoints that you have to have these little signals to like activate the progression at certain times. Melatonin is one of those things. You need to kick off your melatonin at a certain point, get through a certain threshold, and that triggers growth hormone while you're sleeping, and starts this circadian rhythm going from that standpoint. So it's actually been shown to improve growth hormone production as well, which can help in other ways too. So I don't really have a problem with melatonin. But you need to take it in the right way, and you need to sort of do things around sleep the right way anyway. And if you're taking melatonin and you're waking up groggy in the morning, then you probably need to lower your dose. So just a couple things. Rob Siwas says that we overdrink and urine should not be pale. Yeah, I mean, it's people say that, and like Gabor and some of the other deuterium guys think that you should drink as little water as possible. They sort of look at it as the enemy, because all the deuterium in it, or unless you're drinking like deuterium depleted water, which is harder to come by and more obviously more expensive than normal water, because it's a process that's going through it. It's not just filling up a tap. And as far as as a professor of pediatrics in the medical school at UCLA Medical School, who was like a student of Gabor's, as Laszlo Boros, who's they're both from Hungary, and he's also in the deuterium space, and apparently he just drinks 1 cup of coffee a day with deuterium depleted water, I guess, and did a lecture called "You're Drinking Away Your Health" or something like that, of people that drink too much water. But I don't know. I feel better when I do that. And when your urine is clear, it means that you have an abundance of water. So could you drink less? Yeah, potentially. Because your body is saying, okay, we don't need all of this, so it's going out. But it's also sort of resting your kidneys as well, because your kidneys aren't having to concentrate things as much to conserve your water, because it says that we don't need all this, so we'll just let it flow out, and we don't need to work as hard, and that's sort of a thing too. But animals in the wild, their urine is much more concentrated, because they're not drinking all that much water. So you can make arguments either way. And from a deuterium standpoint, they say drinking less is more on that one. I'm just still going to drink the amount of water that feels good to me, though, and go from there. And from Maria, what is the best test to detect an egg tolerance? If so, is it possible to overcome this? Yeah, best test is just anytime you're testing for a food sensitivity, just stop eating it for a month, or at least 2 weeks, but a month is better. And then you reintroduce it, and you just reintroduce it on its own. You don't have a whole bunch of other things. You don't have eggs with a whole bunch of other crap, because you don't know what's doing what. So stop eating eggs for a month, and then have the egg again. If it causes a reaction, then you have to ask yourself, is it the egg, or is it egg yolk, or is it the egg white? And so you can sort of repeat that process and see how you go, or you can just sort of, head that off and, try some egg yolks after a month, no problem. Try the white again, you have a problem. Well, now you know your answer. So that's what I would do, is just take it off for a month, try it on its own, see how you go. From Eli, how to best do carnivore without a gallbladder, how to introduce and increase the amount of fat without having right upper quadrant pain. Added in some MCT oil a couple of days ago, and since last evening have a lot of pain. Oh, I'm sorry. Wondering how long it will last, and any other ideas. I'm getting some OCT buscopan to help with the spasms. Good idea. Um, so if you don't have a gallbladder, you really shouldn't be getting, you know, gallstone pain like you would when you're eating fat. The reason that you get pain when you have gallstones and a gallbladder is because your gallbladder squeezing out the bile, and then some of the stones are going with it, and they're getting, either temporarily or permanently stuck in some of those pipes and openings, and that can be a problem. If that gets permanently stuck, it can cause infection, cause backup, cause jaundice, and you might need surgery. But if you don't have a gallbladder, you shouldn't really have anywhere for stones to form unless you formed a pseudo gallbladder and some unlucky how formed stones in that pseudo gallbladder, which is theoretically possible, for the same reasons that getting that in the gallbladder is possible, which is just you concentrate up bile and you get stones, because that's what happens when you concentrate a solution. Things can precipitate and form crystals. I would, if you are getting right upper quadrant pain after you've had your gallbladder out, and only when you're eating fat, I would see about, talking to your doctor about getting like an ultrasound, see what the hell's going on there, because that it's very unlikely that it's to do with more stones if you don't have a gallbladder, and that's what causes that pain after you eat fat, is a stone getting stuck, and that hurts when things get blocked up in your body. It hurts, when you have your bladder is blocked and it's filling up with urine. It hurts. Same thing with an impacted bowel. Like, it hurts. Having that backup pressure is really painful. So I would check that out. It could just be something else unrelated. And so if you're having MCT oil a couple of days ago and since last evening having a lot of pain, probably not related to the MCT oil, because that's too distant. Like, if you're talking about gallbladder stones, let's say you have your gallbladder, let's say you have stones, you eat the fat right then the thing gets stuck, right then you have the pain. It's not like a delayed fashion a few days later. So that sounds like that's unrelated. So there might be something else going on, but it's in the same area. So that obviously you're going to be worrying for gallstones before. But so you might want to just have a chat with your doctor and see what else is going on. You could, if he's worried, or she's worried, or whoever's worried, you could get, and there is sort of a suspicious timing for that when you're eating fat, getting this pain. An ultrasound of that area might be worthwhile to see what the hell is going on. And if there's nothing there, and you don't have a pseudo gallbladder and there's no stones there, then you can safely say it's unrelated. It's probably unrelated, though. The best way to do carnivore for someone without a gallbladder is, it depends on if they have a pseudo gallbladder or they don't. Generally, your body's just going to be your liver's going to be making bile, and it's going to be just dripping out at a steady rate, because it's not going to have anywhere to store up like a gallbladder or a pseudo gallbladder. And because of that, that's what or allows your body to absorb fat. So you're going to have to sort of eat smaller meals of fat throughout the day, because if you eat a huge bolus of fat, it's just going to go through you pretty quickly, and you're not going to absorb much of that at all. So you need to, if you're having that and you eat a big meal of fat and you have diarrhea afterwards, then your body's not absorbing a lot of that fat. And so you need to break up your fatty meals throughout the day. Some people can actually do, one meal a day, big fatty meal on carnivore once a day without a gallbladder. Those people almost certainly would have formed a pseudo gallbladder. So it just depends on where you fall in with that. Let's see. And from Ian, I was looking for guidance on gaining weight on carnivore. I am quite active, 5'9", 150 pounds, and struggle to put on weight properly and healthily my whole life. I already eat usually about 2 pounds of beef, probably a minimum of 12 ounces of raw milk. Okay. 6 to 8 raw egg yolks and some raw cheese each day. I don't know if I could bump this up to 4 pounds of ground beef a day economically or realistically, or am I just my optimal weight and just accept it potentially? The thing is, though, is that your body's going to grow with stimulus, right? If you're not stimulating your body to grow, why would it grow, right? So you need to be lifting weights. If you want to put on muscle, you've got to stimulate your body to put on muscle. So you need to work out. You need to do get into a fitness program and do like resistance training. If you want to put on muscle, the best thing to do is anaerobic activity, and that will stimulate muscle growth much more than aerobic activity, certainly. And that will also stimulate you to eat more. So you have to have both. So you have to do the work, and you have to give your body enough resources to grow in response to that. Raw milk is great in comparison to normal milk, but I think it's problematic because it does have enough lactose. It's going to kick you into an aberrant metabolic state, and you're more likely to basically put you into a fat storing state instead of a fat utilizing state. And I don't think that that's necessarily what you're going to want to do. Um, so I don't know. Maybe you could try just working out more, and then just like maybe just giving the raw milk a skip, some raw cheese with the meat, fine, not a big deal. But I would be cautious with the raw milk, especially every day, because, like we said before, if you mess up, it takes 24 hours for your insulin to come down. That same is true for the lactose in milk, and this is why a lot of people use fermented dairy products, because they don't want to deal with that lactose. And so you can be changing your metabolic state there as well, and that can be a bit more difficult to put on healthy weight as well. So that's, if it's for me doing it, that's what I would do. I would stop taking the raw milk for now, and I would start working out and lifting weights. And I have videos talking about working out, but the main thing is you have to work out to fatigue. You have to push yourself until your body can't go anymore, and then you have to keep going. Like if you're doing someone's spotting you or something like that, you keep going until you cannot go anymore, and then you have them help you do a couple more reps. That's how you get results. That's how you get um, you know gains and all that sort of stuff. So it's there's a big difference between the people who sort of stop when things are really difficult, and the people who push past what they could normally do with a spotter. It's only a couple reps different. It makes all the difference in actual performance and results. Like I've worked out with guys who sort of do a similar amount of reps than me, but I always go to failure, and I've always had way better results than them. And it's just not even a comparison. And I'm not doing all that much more. I'm just maxing it out where they are not. And it's that going to complete muscle fatigue. That's what really stimulates your muscles to grow. And so if you want to put on bulk, you got to put in the work, and you got to know how to you have to put in the work properly. So I have videos working out with the X3 bar and other things, and I talk about that. I always talk about going to failure, going to muscle fatigue. And so that's what I would do. I'd stop the raw milk. I'd start lifting weights as much as you can. Make sure you're getting, enough fat. Like if you're doing ground beef, I would try to get fattier ground beef. I go to the butcher and try to get like 60-40 ground beef, or even 50-50 ground beef. That's going to get you that 70-30 uh, fat to protein by calorie ratio. That seems to be about where most people are at and need to be. And then you just need to eat enough. So work out really hard, eat enough to where your body's full and your body doesn't want anymore. And that will give your body what it needs to grow. And I'll just cut out the raw milk and see how you go. And then work out properly. Oh yeah, I just answered Ellie's. Oh, sorry. Eli, is that, well, hopefully you made it, but watch the first half again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll be able to watch that. Um, Olivia asks, when you mentioned the X3 advantage, it creates constant tension. Is it possible to recreate this in normal weights? Yeah, it's a lot of things is time under tension. So you're just constantly going. Now, if you're on free weights, you're sort of always under tension as well because you're holding this thing up so it doesn't, crush you, right? With the bands, you can actually cheat a bit and rest because you want like if you're doing chest press, you come out here. If you lock out, then you're not using your muscle to hold it out there, right? Because it's locked out, and your joints are sort of holding that together. It takes a lot less effort, and then if you come back here, you can let it sort of rest there, and you can take tension off the bands. So you don't want to do that. You want to come out here, not to full lockout, but just before. So your muscles have to hold it together. And you come back here. And when you feel the tension sort of almost coming off, that you hold it there and you don't go back any further and you're going out. And then you're constantly keeping that under tension and you'll just wear yourself out faster. Now you can do it the other way and you can lock out and then come back and get a bit of a rest. All that's doing is that it's just going to take longer until you get to failure, and so it's just going to prolong the pain. And so if it's hurting you and you're going, oh, I really want to rest, it's in your best interest to not rest because you're not done until you've maxed yourself out. And so if you're keeping the tension on, you actually max out faster, and so you're getting to that state quicker. And so it's actually in your best interest to not take a rest and not do that. You can definitely do that with weights. I've been doing that my whole life. I've only recently started using bands, and the point is that you want to go, whatever you're doing, you want to go to the point you really can't anymore. So with the bands, you're going out all the way and then back and out and back and back, and then all of a sudden you can't, and you're just sort of going half little reps and little quarter reps, and then you're only sort of jiggling it. You can't move it anymore, and you say, okay, I'm done. Same sort of thing is going to be true with free weights. If you're doing a press or doing a whatever, you just keep going until you're not really able to go any further, and then you get stuck and you're trying to fight it and you're trying to fight it and you're trying to fight it. Some people just go, oh yeah, I'm done, and they'll let their spotter take it or something like that, or they'll kind of go like, oh yeah, that's pretty good, and they'll put it up on the rack. So you keep going until you're stuck, and then you fight it. And so like I'm working out, I don't have a spotter, and so I know sort of how it feels when I get to like that, like I've sort of like eke one out and just barely get it up and think like, do I have one more in the tank, or am I not gonna be able to make it? Sometimes I just go, screw it, I'm just gonna do it, and I just go for one more rep, and I go stuck, and I have to just really. But I'm like, I don't have a spotter. If I don't want to make a scene and dump these weights and just make a big clattering noise and have everyone look at me and see who's the idiot who did that, I've got to get this stupid thing up. And so I'm just fighting this thing. And so I'm like stuck, like completely stuck. And then I'm just fighting and just slowly moving it up. I've rarely gotten stuck where I've had to, drop the weights or something like that. Rarely. But doing that, that gets everything out of your system, and now it takes even longer to get that up, and you're under tension the whole time. So that's how you get to real failure. It's harder for some things, with squats. You have to be able to time that because you fail on squats and you're sitting down. And so if you don't have a spot, so just be careful with that. Okay. From Linda, what do you think of fat fasting, eating and drinking only fat for 24 to 72 hours for weight loss? Any negative effects? I've never looked into that. I've never really seen a reason to look into that. I think you just eat meat. I don't think you need to have these complex algorithms and equations, and if you do this for 72 hours and you do this in this way and this percentage and that for all that sort of stuff, maybe you can sort of screw with things in a certain way. I don't think it's going to necessarily be healthy and healthful. It's your body wants meat, and that's it. And if you just give your body what it wants and what it needs, it's going to work itself out. And so, you will lose weight, you will lose fat, you will get healthier, period. Now, if you've been unwell for a long time and you've been eating the wrong thing for a long time and you're eating poison, you've been poisoned, there is such thing as damage done, and you're going to have some problems to contend with. But most of this stuff is going to improve dramatically. And you just want to go back to eating a physiologically appropriate diet in a physiologically appropriate way. So you eat fatty meat when you're hungry, you drink water to thirst when available, and you just let your body take care of the rest. When you start screwing with your biochemistry, you will generally lose because it's very complex. I mean, you've got, tens of millions of chemical interactions every millisecond in your body, and I mean that in each cell. All right. And you've got, trillions of cells. Okay. So the amount of complexity that's going on here is just insane. So to think that we're going to tinker with that, it's a bit unrealistic, So I would just keep it simple. Just eat fatty meat when you're hungry, eat until you're full, eat until meat stops tasting good, and drink water to thirst. Probably not around meal times, because you'll fill up your stomach with water. You might not eat as much as you would normally want to, and you'll also dilute your digestive enzymes and things like that. And but that's it. Just keep it simple. Like the old saying, just keep it simple, stupid. Like, just cool it down. Just do it as naturally and physiologically as you can, and I think you'll find that just works better for pretty much everyone. Do you think that you need us to supplement vitamin D when you can't get it from the sun in the winter? Potentially. Most people are okay though, when you're on a carnivore diet, because fat, certain fats have more than others, but fat in general has vitamin D. Butter has vitamin D. I don't know how many people have access to seal, but the Inuit, they don't, they never get enough sun to get vitamin D, and they have no problems with vitamin D because the fat that they eat, like the seals and the polar bear and the whales and whatever other marine animals that they're eating, or fish, have a ton of vitamin D in it. And so, they don't need any of that. My vitamin D, when just being, going to work before the sun came out and coming back after the sun went down, my vitamin D was in the normal ranges, as we would consider that, with just the, normal lab results, and nearly perfect in the optimal range that we would actually look at in functional medicine and say, this is the range that we see in 25-year-olds who don't have anything wrong with them, who are healthy, as opposed to the first 2,000 people that came into the lab that year. And that's your reference range, which is how labs get their reference ranges, which is why there are different reference ranges in every area, because it's just an average of the community. It's not actually showing you a range of optimal health. And in fact, some of these things are well outside the range of optimal health, like B12. B12 reference ranges are way too low, and that's because most people's B12 is way too low. And so, like here in Australia and even in the US, the range is, dips down into a level that if you're actually that low and you're in the so-called normal range, you'll get demyelination and nerve damage. So how the hell are we calling that a normal range? Because doctors who don't know that look at that, or you look at that and just go like, "Oh, I'm in the normal range, so that's normal." No, it's not. No, these reference ranges are for just the average in the community. Most people are sick now. It's something like, there was like a study that showed there was like only like 7% of people in America are metabolically healthy. That's nuts. And so these are the reference ranges that you're using, is very sick people that aren't metabolically healthy. So, okay, my bloods are in that reference range. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like, everyone is sick, everyone is unwell. So, but most of the time you don't need to. But you can check. You just check. And so, if you're getting a lot of butter and you're getting a lot of fat, especially, depending on what kind of fat you're getting. You probably don't need to, but you can always check, and you can try to go to like someone who knows a bit about functional medicine, um, and see those ranges. I might see about posting something in the Patreon group about sort of the reference ranges that we use in our functional medicine practice to sort of think about, and these will be in Australian Australian units. So just be mindful of that. But I'll see about putting something together, and I might post something up there, and then you guys can sort of take a look at that and sort of get an idea. This is not a substitute for going to your doctor. This is not a substitute for getting these things interpreted in context with your provider. It's just reference. It's a reference. So just so you guys know that, don't use it to like diagnose anything, or stop or start any sort of medications or treatments or anything like that without direction from a doctor. Just be mindful of that. Is Australia the same as UK? I think it is for most things, but not everything. Like, I know that B12 you guys do differently. B12 ranges. I think we were talking before, there was like the UK is like over 150 is high. Here it's the reference range is 169 to 650, something like that. And below 400, you're getting demyelination and nerve damage. So that's clearly going to be on a different scale. But yeah, so I think it's going to be same for some and different for others in the UK and Australia. From Rebecca, my child has Down syndrome and eats mostly meat, eggs, and sausage. Very good. He has low thyroid, which he takes a supplement for, which is typical. And the only thing is he has to have peas and oranges every single day. Could this derail him? Is that a preference thing? He has to have those, or they just really likes them and he wants to have those, or is someone saying that he needs that? Is someone like a doctor saying that he needs that? I guess that's the question. It sounds like it's more of a preference thing. Look, oranges probably, I mean, it's not as bad as candy bars and soda. Certainly, it's going to have much less fructose and carbs, but it's still going to have some. The fiber in that context is going to delay some of the absorption of the fructose, and you're not going to get as much. So it may not be causing all that much problems. Peas are gross. I don't know why you would eat those anyway, but same with the fiber there. But it can also sort of delay absorption of everything else. Look, it's not the worst thing in the world. If he really, really loves them, you can't get him to stop, just do what you can do. I think it would definitely be best if he didn't have those, and especially things with carbohydrates, it's just going to screw with your insulin and things like that. But Down syndrome it's going to be the same as any other person. He's still a carnivore. That's just the kind of animals we are, and he has a specific condition, but that doesn't change him from being a carnivore, and that doesn't change his sensitivities to plant toxins and carbohydrates. So it could derail him, and I think it's far better than basically anyone else on earth is doing. But to be optimal and optimize him, yeah, I would try to get him off the peas and the oranges if you can, and if you're able to, and just see how he does with that. It may be that it doesn't make as big of a difference, and maybe an orange every now and then isn't that big of a deal, which it probably isn't. But a little can turn into a lot, especially with things that are addictive like fructose. So I just be mindful of that. But I would, I just see how you go. But I mean, he's obviously doing, much better than just everyone else. Sausages can have different things in them. So just obviously checking the ingredients, make sure it doesn't have a bunch of starch and carbs and fillers and sugar added in them. And then what do you think of chocolate-fed beef? Never never heard of that. But, a cow is not meant to eat chocolate. It's not even meant to eat grains. And so when it's eating something that it doesn't eat normally, it's not going to have the requisite defenses to to get rid of a bunch of toxins and things like that, and poisons as well. And so it's not going to be as healthy. Chocolate, is this sugary chocolate, or just this bitter, horrible chocolate? I don't know. I don't know. I would be skeptical. It's probably not that much different, but because that's not their natural food either, it's not going to be it's not going to be as nutritious, and it can have some stuff in there that it's not able to break down either. But it's like grain-fed beef is it is definitely different from grass-fed beef, but it's still better than any alternative. But I don't know. Chocolate-fed beef just sounds weird. Um, let's see. So saying from Jason, part one. I have mostly moved away from plastic. Oh yeah, that's right. So I mostly moved away from plastic. Do buy water from a local water spot now. How bad is plastic, and what are the benefits of clean water over city town water? Well, to answer the second part first, um, it really depends. A lot of people are actually saying that like brackish water, like you get from like a creek and things like that, this is going to have minerals and electrolytes and things like that that are actually good. And you have to weigh that against, how badly you want to not get giardia. So, city town water, they're going to have a bunch of crap in it. They have a bunch of like chlorine things added to it, potentially, fluoride and things like that. I'm not an expert on fluoride, but you do sort of get suspicious on these things when, it's not even the right, when you're talking about like, oh, this is good for your teeth or whatever. Is it really? Because the fluoride ion that they generally put in water isn't actually the right kind to actually affect your teeth. So what the hell is that about? So I don't know, but there's a bunch of chemicals and crap in there. So city water is not the best, but it depends on the city. It depends on the town, because there are some places that it's just mountain spring water basically, and that's just going through and doesn't necessarily get treated. Maybe it has a bit of chlorine put into it, which you can, certain filters will get that out. But those filters will also get out all the minerals and everything else in there as well. So having that sort of brackish water as a local sort of stream or whatever without any of those chemicals in it, potentially better. But you're going to contend with microbes that are in there, which is actually something that we've evolved to do. So, it's not actually necessarily a bad thing, but be mindful. You could potentially get exposed to something. Plastic is bad. It's super bad. And is that how they make chocolate milk? The chocolate cows? Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably it. Chocolate milk comes from chocolate cows, and so plastic is it's not something that we've ever sort of come across in nature. So our bodies are like, what the hell is this? And it has like weird different chemical effects in our body. There's the different sorts of things that was it like PCBAs or something like that, whatever the hell the acronym is. I am just not sure what it is, offhand, but they have been shown to actually cause quite a lot of problems and hormonal disruption, and actually screw with your hormones. So if men are drinking, using this, or like cooking with plastic that has this stuff in it, it can actually reduce your sperm count. Okay, so that's not good. That's obviously doing something in your body, screwing with your hormones and screwing with your biochemistry in a certain way that's not beneficial. And in women, it can screw with their hormones as well, but it actually stays in their system longer. Well, it stays in all of our systems, but for women, it's more important because it can stay in your system for a while, and it can actually affect your fetus if you get pregnant, and it's been shown to cause problems in the next generation, to like change the distance between like the penis and the anus, and this has different sorts of markers and effects of fertility and health. Apparently, I forget the lady's name, but she's there's a lady who's studied this in depth, and penis size. So you actually like, so women who are having like plastic, cooking with plastic or plastic water bottles and things like that, especially heat treated, obviously every 10 degrees Celsius, you increase reaction, it doubles the reaction rate, right? So that goes for the chemical reaction of eluting those chemicals from the water bottle into your water. If that heats up, that's doubling, depending on how you go. So if you're cooking with it, you put some food in a plastic dish or a Tupperware dish and you microwave that, that's sucking a lot of this chemical crap into your food, and that's the problem. So you should never ever cook or put hot liquids in like plastic or Tupperware or anything like that, even if it says it's safe, and because it's not. And it's safe compared to what? Like what's the marker of health that they're using to say this is safe? It's not going to be the same as I would use. And so that's the thing. And so they found that, I'm sure this was done in rat models or whatever, but they actually did this with people as well and measured all this stuff. And they found that these sort of plastics that got in when women were pregnant or soon to be pregnant, it sort of had different hormonal effects on the kids. And one of those downstream effects was to make penis size smaller in men. And so, I don't know why you would just sabotage your child like that, but that they can do that. Here's the crazy thing. It lasted 2 generations. So that's more than just, you've had exposure to, a hormone, and then there's something else going on. So it's having some sort of, really sort of meta effect, that's lasting 2 generations. So you cook with plastics and things like that, you get this plastics in your body. Your son has a smaller penis size. His sons will have smaller penis sizes as well. So it lasts 2 generations just because, you didn't want to use like a plate to microwave something, and you want to use Tupperware instead. So I would definitely stay the hell away from those things. And again, like even as an adult, it will reduce your sperm count. So this is doing stuff to you. Here's the trickier part, because people know this. They know that these certain plastics are bad. So they'll say this is non-PCBA or whatever. I really hope it is PCBA, but I don't necessarily think it is. But anyway, whatever it is, saying this is not that. Oh, great, this must be safe then. No, because they just changed the chemical slightly. So now it's technically something else. It actually acts the same way. And so the same lady showed that those other plastics actually work in the same way, in the same manner, and have the same results. But they're just called something different. So they say, oh yeah, no, this is safe. This is different. This isn't that kind of plastic. This is PCBA free. Okay, right. Well, this is PCBA 1, and now it's the same exact thing. So I wouldn't use any plastic, any Tupperware, certainly not to cook with. If you have things cold and you bring something to work, fine. Glass is better. Metal is better. And, so just avoiding all of that, I think, is well worth it. And drinking with glass glasses instead of plastic glasses, and certainly with any hot liquid, styrofoam, things like that, that just, you warm water and styrofoam, that just leaches that stuff out. Having coffee in a styrofoam cup at work or something like that, bad idea. So I would definitely get rid of that stuff. Okay, so I think we got through. I think that's exactly on the hour. BPAs, that's it. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I knew it wasn't BCBA. I couldn't think what the hell it was. But BPAs, yeah. So BPAs, and then it'll say, BPA free. I was like, great. Well, they're using things that are just slightly different from BPAs, but they still have the same effect. So it's the same thing. And so it's just marketing. It's just like saying, sugar-free candy. And it's just like, oh, okay, that must mean it's good for, or sorry, fat-free candy. It's like fat-free candy. It's like, it's candy, like let's not kid ourselves. Like whether or not fat's good or bad for you, fat-free or fat-full candy is still candy and still not good for you. And so that's the sort of thing. It's just a marketing thing. So they say BPA free, and you go, oh, that's great. I heard BPAs are bad. This doesn't have it. This is safe plastic. No, there's no such thing as safe plastic. So just stay away from it in general. So, okay. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's sort of it for the questions on the emails. So if people have other questions, you can type them in. I'm happy to stay a bit longer, um, or um, or we can wrap up if no one has anything else. Olivia is saying that we have 16 people signed up for the October book club, which is great. That's really cool. So if people want to do that, the book is Guns, Germs, and Steel, and we're just going to do like a different carnivore-esque book a month. I don't know if we necessarily need to add in Thomas Sowell books. Everyone knows I love Thomas Sowell. If you want a Thomas Sowell reading list, you can always ask me. But he's just read anything the guy writes. Basically, he's awesome. And so this will sort of try to keep it more geared towards this sort of stuff. So 16 people signed up for that, which is great. Anyone can read along, or if you join the Discord group, which is great. I think there's very positive sort of things happening there, and people are enjoying that, which is really good. You can join that Discord group and join the book club through the Discord group, and just read along and come along for the discussions about the book as well, and then we'll go from there. So, all right. Any last burning questions that people have before we go? Mike has a comment here about the estrogeneration, how estrogenics are making you fat, sick, and infertile. Book by Anthony G. J. That's weird, having a last name that is the same as a letter and having a letter as your middle name and just doing that. I just dropped the G. What is the meaning of life? Procreation. That's what it is. That is the biological meaning of life, is to have kids and have babies. And that's also a pretty good answer for fulfillment in life as well. And you talk to people who have, sort of close to death, and every one of them says, I wish I spent more time with my family, or I wish I had a family. It's very, very rare that people said, I wish I worked more. I wish I, went to Belize or something like that. They all say, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I, spent more time with my kids and things like that. And so that, I think, is very certainly the biological meaning of life. That is life. The purpose of life is to create more life and make more copies of you and pass your genes down. That is the meaning of life from a strict biological sense. And I think from a meaning sense as well, and a spiritual sense, it also comes down to having kids, having family, and just having a fulfilling, meaningful life, whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be with kids, but a lot of times, having people, just surrounding yourself with people that are important to you, makes your life more full. So, okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I definitely did. It was a bunch of interesting questions today, and hopefully you guys like that. So, take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I will be back to my normal hellscape of a schedule next week, and actually this weekend, because a colleague just had a baby, which is awesome. And then so I'll be covering him on his weekend shift. So I'm going back to work a bit early, which should be okay. My knee's feeling all right, as long as I don't do too much walking. And great. So we'll have to sort of schedule these for the Zoom meeting on Sunday. Might have to do that a bit earlier because I will be working. We might have to do that just a bit earlier in the day, and so we'll try to schedule that probably for 6 a.m. this coming Sunday, and then we'll just play it by ear after that. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.